Welcome, welcome, welcome to Koinonia Talk. I'm your host, Jim Warren, better known by some people as Jimbo, actually known by a lot of other things, but we don't talk about those on this show. Anyway, welcome. We're glad you're here with us tonight. We have our special guests waiting in the wing. Whoa, just about lost my voice. Waiting in the wing, Caitlin and Cooper, who will be headlining the Koinonia Coffeehouse this Saturday. Now, I've been asked by quite a few people, what is Koinonia Talk? And the truth of the matter is we consider this the pre-show for this Saturday's Coffee House, where you get to meet the headliners up close and personal and get to learn things about their life and what makes them tick and what's going on in their lives. You know, it's one thing to come to the coffee house and to hear them minister in music or comedy or drama, but it's another thing to get to know them. And Koinonia is all about knowing one another. The other question I always get is, what is the word koinonia? Now, we're not going to talk about how to remember how to pronounce that. That's something I talk about at the coffee house. But it is a Greek word from the Bible that's often translated as fellowship. Now, what fellowship meant years ago when it was used to translate koinonia and what it means today are two different things. Today, we simply have a party and say we're having fellowship, or we have a potluck dinner after church and say we're having fellowship. But the word koinonia is something far more important than that. It talks about an intimacy of relationship where people are connected in such a way that they have each other's backs, they take care of one another, they're there with each other. Actually, they're walking life out with one another. And it's used to describe our relationship with God as well as our relationship with one another. And that's what the Koinonia Coffee House is all about. It's about developing our relationships with God and developing relationships with Christians throughout the area so that we can find those who are really interested in stop being religious Christians and become radical, authentic disciples of Jesus Christ who want to live in community with one another. So that's what that's all about. I have a few announcements I'd like to share with you. This Saturday, as most of you know who are watching, Caitlin and Cooper will be with us. I am so excited by these two young people. They are a part of the youth that have been coming out to do our opening set. When I envisioned this new coffee house, I thought in terms of having it set where people who are learning to use their talents to serve the Lord can come and have an opportunity to share them, and then bring on people that have been doing it for a while. Well, Caitlin and Cooper did a couple of songs just themselves in that opening set, and I was so impressed by them that I just had to have them come and do the two main sets on a Saturday. So we settled for this Saturday, June 18th. I know it's Father's Day weekend, but what a great thing to bring out Dad to the Koinonia Coffee House this Saturday. It starts at 7 o'clock. Actually, the doors open at 6:45. So you can find us. If you're not familiar, we're just north of the tracks in Wheatfield, Indiana, on Highway 49, the old Christian Haven campus, which is now called Wheatfield Academy. Now, for all my friends that are living on the north side of Valparaiso, listen, we're just a 30-minute drive. And all my friends that are living on the south side of Rensselaer, again, we're just a 30-minute drive. And if you're from Wheatfield, DeMott, Hebron, or Couts, well, this is in your own backyard. So it isn't a problem to come out and to find us. If you're coming down 49 from the north and you cross a set of railroad tracks, you've gone too far, just turn around and go right back. You'll see a yellow sign out on the street that points the way. Follow the road back and the signs, and you'll find the Koinonia Coffee House in the retreat center of the Wheatfield Academy. And again, the coffee house, we have free baked goods for you, free coffee, free soda, everything. There's no cover charge whatsoever. we do accept donations, but they're not required. And so it's just a time to come together and to grow in our relationship with God and grow in our relationships with one another. You may want to know how to keep in touch with us and find out what's going on from week to week at the Coffee House. You can do that by going to the Coffee House Facebook page, Koinonia Coffeehouse, Koinonia Coffee House on Facebook. You can also go to our website, which is koinoniacoffeehouse.org. And we also have a Android app. And if you're watching this live and not listening to the podcast, there's a QR code up on the screen right now that if you just take a quick shot of that, it'll take you directly to the place to download that app, or you can find it on the Google Play Store. So that, I also wanted to bring out that next Saturday at the Coffee House, my friend Frank Guzzo and his friend Steve Campbell will be in. Frank, both of them are ministers. Frank's up in Valparaiso and Steve is down in Boswell. They have been doing music together for quite a few years. They're well known in Porter County and down here in Jasper County, and they do all kinds of music. So that will be on the 25th, June 25th. And then I'm still trying to book July, so you'll know more about that as we move along. So that takes care of that. If I can get rid of that slide, and I am back with you. And what I'd like to do, let me just take care of this. What I'd like to do is bring on our guests right now today. Let's see if this works. There they are, Caitlin and Cooper. Say hello. Oh, I have you muted. Hold on a minute. There you go. Say hello.
Hello.
Hey, I am so excited to have you guys on with us tonight. This is going to be an interesting night. You are definitely the youngest people I have ever interviewed, and that's exciting for me to find young people that are excited to serve the Lord and excited about music and have really become key parts of the Koinonia Coffee House. So we appreciate with us. Hey, listen, I want to start out by talking a little bit about your lives right now. Both of you just graduated from KV High School, if I understand right. What was that like graduating from high school?
I got it. Well, so graduating just a couple weeks ago feels like longer than that already. I'm beginning a new chapter in my life. I'm leaving school in general in my hometown, which I've known for my entire life. I was born and raised here. And I'm moving now myself to Appleton, Wisconsin, which is about 4 hours in good weather, 5 hours in bad weather north. So
no, we're not going to allow that. Wait a minute. We're not going to allow that. I am going to put shackles on your feet and tie you to this area because we can't lose you at the coffee house, Cooper.
You're not the only one. You'll have a team of people to try to tie me down. I mean, good luck. But okay. I'm kind of quick. But
what are you going to do up in Appleton?
So I will be studying music education and linguistics. I'm kind of a nerd up at Lawrence University, which is a fancy person music college. But to me, graduating, isn't just, oh, well, I'm done with school. But now it's also I'm leaving my home. I'm leaving my my family and everybody I know. It's going to be totally different. I get to see, living on my own is more about being an individual and taking on the world, and it's very exciting to me.
Yeah. Caitlin, what was it like for you graduating?
It's along the same lines, because I'll also be leaving to Indianapolis. No. I won't be that far though. Indianapolis. Okay. So I can still come. It'll be cool. I'm gonna kind of go down there. That's where my grandpa lives, and Ivy Tech is offering what I'm wanting to do, which is medical imaging and kind of radiology there. Okay. Valpo didn't quite offer that, so otherwise I would be closer. But my grandpa's down there and plan to move in with him, so it'll be easy cost on me. and so all I really have to pay for is classes and stuff. But yeah, graduating, it came pretty quick when senior year started, but you know, I was ready for it. I'm not gonna lie. I was ready. I was ready to be out of high school.
You know, 300 years ago when I graduated from high school, I was ready for it. And but I remember, in fact, I was going through some old pictures the other day and came across some old graduation pictures of myself and my buddies when we were graduating. And I happened to see some of your guys's on Facebook. We didn't have anything like we didn't even have MySpace back then. In fact, we didn't even have cell phone. We didn't even have the internet back then. I think we had cars, and you know, we just didn't ride around on horses. But we didn't communicate at all that way. Those things are totally new, and for old guys like me. But it's neat to be able to see into your lives on Facebook and see you and your friends, you know, when you're graduating and having a good time. And it took me back to those times, and when I found those. So what do you guys do in your spare time for fun?
You want me to say first?
Yeah,
go ahead, Caitlin.
Oh, all right. My spare time, honestly, I don't really do much right now. Besides, I'll play guitar from time to time, you know, for the coffee house, and then I'll get asked a few times to do some church events. So a lot of time it's just playing guitar. Other than that, hanging with the homies is always, you know, always got to do that. But other than that, I'm really boring. If I'm at home, I'm lazy and boring. I'll put it out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about you, Cooper? What do you do with your spare time?
So, being a recent graduate, I haven't had a lot of spare time, you know, preparing for open houses, doing all this different stuff. But in my spare time, I guess along what Caitlin says, if you don't like music, I'm really boring, because I do music all the time. Whether that's playing bass, you know, my upright bass, my guitar, any of the other things I've collected over the years, singing. I play out in Spencer Park on Wednesdays. I play at church. I play at Caitlin's church. I teach. So I do a lot of music. I love music. It's what I've been doing, I mean, since like middle school when I really got going. I eat the stuff right up, you know. So I'm happy that I get to study it and, you know, do what I love. But aside from that, I enjoy spending time with my family. They're a colorful bunch. I love them. They're very funny. And you know, getting to know new people. I've taken this opportunity to not only play but just be at the coffee house as an opportunity to meet some new people I never would have ran into. So yeah, I like to talk to people. I like to play music, and that's kind of what I get up to when I have time.
Okay. Now, you know, I really am not stalking you guys, but I have looked at your Facebook pages from time to time. Sure. And I noticed that you like to play, what is it, disc golf?
I love disc golf. Yes, that's right. Yeah, me and my friends, I have a friend I go with. We play in Valpo, Lafayette. He's up at Purdue. And yeah, it's a great sport, very relaxing. For people who aren't like 10 out of 10 athletes like myself, it's a fun thing to go and do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I saw that picture with you guys throwing frisbees at the discs, you know, at the camera, and I thought, well, there's something that he likes to do. So that's great. That's great. Well, let's move on. You know, obviously, both of you are followers of Jesus. Do both of you go to Calvary Church in DeMott? There, is that where you met, or?
I go full time. So
okay.
I mean, yeah.
So I actually was raised in a Reformed church, American Reformed. It's across from the DeMott Elementary School. So so that's where I'm from. I go there every Sunday. Sunday nights too. We have our youth group Sunday nights, which is really nice because having youth group Sunday nights allows me to go to Calvary Wednesday nights. So beginning about a year ago, at the beginning of my senior year, I've known Caitlin since I was like a little kid. So I just thought, well, I'll start going to youth group with her because I wanted to go somewhere new, meet some new people. Because, you know, that's one of the things I like to do. And what better way to do that than get involved in another church? So I started going to Calvary, and then they drafted me real quick to play on their worship team. It didn't take long. I played drums and sang one time there. That's been awesome getting to know that group. But yes, I was raised in the Reformed Church, and then I attend Calvary here and there.
Okay. What is it about faith in Christ that caused you to want to be a follower of Jesus?
I got it.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I can speak for both of us in that we were raised in the church. I know for myself, we were both raised in the church. My parents were raised in the church. So, I mean, I'm kind of jealous in a way of the people who get to say, oh, well, I had this incredible experience, where I found Christ, because that's such a powerful story and such a, to many people, I think, a relatable experience. But for myself, I was raised in the church. Can you restate the question? I don't mean to go too far off of it.
No, you're right on. What is it about following Christ that is so important to you? What is it about being a follower of Christ that seems to attract you to that life?
So for me, the question could be answered this way. Okay, I grew up in the world of social media, of technology, of just constant bombardment of information and different ideas. So there's a lot of noise in the world to me, and to be able to look at one set of truths and things that just don't waver, which to me is the Bible, is incredibly valuable. So to be able to look at God's word and say, this is true, and off of this I can base how I'm going to live my life and interact with others. That is just a burden just taken off of me, So to follow Christ, a man who lived 2,000 years ago, but his word is still incredibly, obviously relevant today. And, just to have that sense of peace and understanding that I can, follow Christ and make something of my life in that way. That is what's appealing to me, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'll agree on that. I will agree on that 100%. He kind of summed it up the same way I would have. But it's always having something to go to, if that makes sense. You don't have to doubt it. You don't have to question it. You know what it is. It's true. That's your bouncer right there.
Yeah, it becomes a foundation in your life, a foundation for your life. That is great. I am convinced there's something in the water over there at Calvary with the young people that I've been meeting that go to the youth group there and come out and do music for us in the morning. I've been at the opening set at the Coffeehouse. I have been spending the last 35 years of my life. I do ministry to the more disconnected, high-risk kids. And for the last 15, I've been going into Porter County Juvenile Detention Center and on Sundays afternoons, and then coaching, discipling kids when they get out that want to get together with me. And I'm not used to kids that are into service and into being concerned about other people and things like that. But I've also met a lot of other quote unquote traditional young people. But I am amazed at the servant heart that I see in the young people that I have met at the Coffeehouse coming out of Calvary Church. There isn't a night when we're getting ready to close down or when we're setting up, if they're there, what can we do to help? What can they get done with something? They'll come back and can we help more? What else can we do to help? That has blown both my wife Tracy and my minds as we've watched that. You just don't see that often in a lot of young people today. And so that's amazing. I also wanted to say, Cooper, that wanting to have that, I happen to be a guy that has that big testimony. I grew up in the church, but I went off the deep end when I got out of high school, and then had that real come to Jesus moment where I had to make that decision. What path was I going to travel? Was I going to follow him, or was I going to do the things that were important to me at the time, which were not always the best things for anybody to be doing. But back in the 60s and 70s during the Jesus People movement, there were a lot of kids that grew up in the church who were literally felt they didn't have a testimony because their life hadn't gone off the rails and then brought back onto the rails Jesus. And to me, it's a greater testimony that I grew up in the church. I grew up learning about Jesus. I grew up following Jesus. And yes, there are times in my life where I have to make a decision as to whether I'm going to let him be the foundation of my life or not. You know, if I'm going to be obedient to what he teaches in the Bible, specifically in the New Covenant. But to have that testimony of how God has kept you and has helped you stay faithful to him in the 18, 19 years that you've been on the face of the earth, to me, that's a greater testimony. And so don't ever feel bad about that at all. Yeah. In fact, there's strange things that happen when you turn 70. One of them is I just realized I forgot to do Jimbo's shorts. And Jimbo's Radical Shorts, a little teaching that I was going to do. So tonight's going to be shorter. I'm not even going to go back to it. But I'm just sitting here going, yeah, when you turn 70, your mind becomes a sieve. Like I know on some of the things I put out on Facebook, I put the 25th, this Saturday, June. And fortunately, Caitlin corrected me on that. And I went back but I was even changing them tonight on some of them where I see because I do them all on Mondays and then they get scheduled out to drop. And so I'm finding some that have that. So just to say to everybody, these two great kids, young people are going to be on the main stage at Koinonia Coffeehouse this Saturday, June 18th. And you really do want to come out and see them. Now we go into a very special part of the show that we call the interrogation section. So I'm going to ask you some questions that, for the most part, you've never heard before or that you were going to be asked tonight. And so we're going to see what kind of students you were here with this first question. What is your all-time favorite book? When I graduated from high school, I'd probably say Marvel Comics, but that's... You guys got a favorite book yet?
I hate to say it, Jim, but I don't read very much.
Okay. All right. I hear you. All right.
The only thing of reading I do is on my phone at this point.
Yeah.
We're in that day and age.
Yeah, what Caitlin says about the phone is very relevant. I mean, most of the literature we consume these days is, short blogs or like journal entries. I can't say outside of school, it's been a long time since I've sat down and just like read a book, with like the paper and like the binding like that. That's, and it's silly really, because like I grew up and it's like, oh, books, and I would read books, like before I go to bed, but it's not that I haven't been a reader. It's just, I haven't read a lot of novels lately. I mean,
yeah.
So I don't know.
Did you have a literature class in high school that you had to read a book? Were any of those worth reading?
Yeah. Some of the ones I had to read were honestly weird. My English teacher, he was definitely a guy. No, not like, in that way, but I mean, these books I've never heard of, but they were like things you had to believe for the story to make sense.
Sure.
Okay.
And, as in myself, I'm like, well, I know that can't work. It can't actually work. So how am I going to believe that? But
right.
They're definitely those out of the blue books that I've never heard in my entire life.
Okay. I guess for me, I enjoy books that really make you think. If we're talking just purely the stuff I read in high school, I mean, there's a difference between the stuff I was supposed to read and the stuff that I actually read. But I enjoyed.
They still have Cliff Notes out there, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I read a lot of Cliff Notes when I was in high school.
See, some things never change, Jim.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, now I read a lot. I read 3 to 5 books at the same time. So, but
wow.
they all have to do with Christianity, my faith with Christ and ministry and things like that, and different things that I'm studying. I was a horrible reader. I hated to read until I really got interested in Jesus, and that really, I couldn't read enough about that for myself. But I know what you mean. Well, let's flip to another question, and this may be a bad question for you guys too, but let's see what happens. What is your favorite sports team or teams?
Okay.
Besides the KV teams, professional sport teams.
Gotcha. So I grew up. My dad is a huge baseball fan. Okay, and the funny thing is, my parents' friends, they'll say, "Well, what's your favorite team?" And he says, "Well, I like all of them." Well, here's the thing. For me, I like all of them except for one. Okay, and I mostly just do this to be difficult and to get people angry. I do not like the Chicago Cubs. Okay, so whatever team is playing the Cubs that day, that is my favorite.
My favorite team. Okay. Yep. How about you, Caitlin? You into sports at all?
I mean, I would watch them all the time with my dad and stuff, when I'd, be down there with him. I wouldn't say I have favorites, but the most we watched was either the Cardinals, the Cubs for baseball. And then football was either LSU. And then hockey was the St. Louis Blues. So, I mean, I watched them with them, but
you just watched them with him. Yeah. Something to do with Dad. Yeah. Something to do with Dad. Well, I was a Chicago sports fan for years, including the Cubs. and then I decided that, and especially a big Bears fan, and I think I've said this before in the show, but I decided that sports is supposed to be entertainment, right? It's supposed to be entertaining. And when my sports teams were more frustrating than my life was, it was time to stop watching sports.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's true.
And but when the coach who came from Manheim, Pennsylvania, I ran a series of youth centers out in Pennsylvania, and they were for the more disconnected, higher risk kids. But when the football star from the team where I had my first youth center became coach of the Bears, I started watching them again. And now I have a friend that comes over occasionally during the football season, and we'll watch the Bears together. But you got to remember the sports is supposed to be entertaining. It's not supposed to drive us crazy, right? That type of thing. All right. Well, how about this? What has been your all-time favorite vacation? You guys gone on vacations? Family vacations, anything like that?
The last family vacation I went on was southern Indiana, which wasn't very far. Yeah. But we went to all the underground caves and went in them and got to explore them. Yeah. And they were all right, but I definitely think I've gotten a fear of the dark and some tight spaces.
When you went on that trip, did you go to caves that were already set up for people to go through?
Yeah.
Or did you go, 150 pounds ago, I used to go spelunking, which is caving down in that same area, down in Bloomington, Luedtke. There's a place called Sullivan's Cave down there. And that's where you go in with the hard hat and the knee pads and the light on top, and you just explore. And if you're smart, you go with someone who's been there before. And I finally came to a point where I was one that would take other people through. And we won't go into the whole story, but I literally got stuck in this one area in this cave after, fortunately, we just bellied through some water, and it's that red clay down there. And I kind of went up this area and up this hole to get to the next area. And I knew it was tight fit and I'd gained some weight. And I sent people up ahead of me another way. I got stuck in there. And fortunately, the people up above, I had my hands in front of me. That's the way you had to make it through here. They reached down and grabbed my hands, and people behind me pushed on my feet, and I popped out like a cork. It went pop. So that's my kind of caving story. How about you, Cooper? Have you had any vacations that have meant something to you?
Yeah. So my church, American Reformed, 3 years ago, I guess, just after my freshman year, went to Pennsylvania, up in the mountains, and we drove there. And there's quite a lot of sights to see up there, you know. And we went to a Christian retreat place, you know, and I went with a lot of my friends, and that was a good time. A lot of my older friends, you know, I made a lot of friends with kids who were older than me, and it was great to have that experience with them, but also to meet the people there. I always tell this story. This is very funny. The first day we were there, I started to hear noise, and I'm a little bit of a language nerd. I speak a little bit of German, and I'm learning a bit of Portuguese. That's just something that I do. I'm not real good at it, but I hear these sounds. I'm thinking, okay, this is not English. And I'm thinking, okay, Eastern European. And it turned out to be Russian, okay? The very next day, we wake up, we go to get breakfast, and there's a legion of at least 100 Russian Americans standing on this big hill, and they're doing jumping jacks, to get ready for the morning. And I always remember that trip, because I remember that moment. I'm just thinking, where am I? It was really otherworldly to get to meet this new group of people that I had a lot in common with, but they were different from me. And I love that. So that was probably my favorite vacation.
Okay. That's neat. I remember trips. I remember church youth group trips that I used to take when I was a kid. And some of those are things I think about. I have a good friend, two good friends that we keep in touch with each other from time. Actually, we had our 50th class reunion a few years ago. I told you I'm as old as dirt, but you know, I graduated from high school over 50 years ago, and we had our class reunion and reconnected. One of them lives in Vegas, and one of them lives in Arkansas, I think. And we reconnected there and started going through those stories. But we were in the same church youth group ourselves, and we went over a lot of those stories, and some of them were things you would never tell from a pulpit, but you know, we still had a good time remembering those things. Well, listen, I know you guys just graduated from high school, and this next question may be a little tougher, okay?
All right.
So let me throw this one up here. What is something you wish you could do over again? And I know it's not high school. I know that isn't the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man.
Can you think? Somebody had asked me that when I was your age. I couldn't say anything. So I probably should have changed that question for you guys.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's still valid. I would say I've had a little bit of. I haven't had a real rough life, but I've had some tough stuff. So I can't say I have a lot of regrets, or that there's a lot of stuff that I would want to do over again. But I guess I would have. I don't know. I could take another shot at being a middle schooler. Not that I would want to, but for everybody else's sake, I probably should. I could have been a more manageable child, probably, to my parents. I wasn't real bad or anything. Don't get the wrong idea. But, you know, I guess at this point in my life, I'm still doing good so far. So I hope to keep it that way.
Good.
I mean,
and I'm gonna let you off the hook, Caitlin. You want off the hook on that one?
Well, I mean, there's always the little things you could always do over, you know. There's always those little things. So I mean, I really don't have any big things. I mean, life itself is life. Okay. And, you know, you get those challenges.
Yep.
And, you know. So I mean.
Yep. Yep. I'm going to have you guys back on in 20 years, and then I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
guarantee you.
Perfect.
I'll guarantee you'll have an answer like that.
Yep.
All right. Here's another one. What's your favorite movie or movie series?
Okay. Yeah, somebody just asked me this yesterday, so I don't have to sit here and think about it. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Okay. That's a little bit of an older one. I don't know if you know that one. Maybe.
I know that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm not really much of a movie guy. You know, I like opera actually. So it's not that I don't like stories. Okay. I love stories. Right. I love music. But for me, my attention span to sit down and watch a movie sometimes is challenging. But my dad was watching this goofy movie, you know, that he was talking about. And he's like, well, there's time travel and, you know, it's funny. And so I sat down and I watched it and I thought, you know what? They would never make something like this today. This is great. So I like that movie. That's a good film.
Great. How about you, Caitlin?
Openly admit this, but I've seen all the Transformers movies a million times. More times than I think I really should watch them.
You like them?
I'm not sure if I like them or I just watch them a million times because they're free on TV and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and watch a movie. It's gonna be Transformers because I can about at this point sit there and probably tell you the script if I really wanted to.
Yep. When I was in high school, I used to go over to my best friend's house, and his whole family would be sitting in their, today you would call it a TV room, and they would flip on a movie, and they'd seen it so many times, they were literally speaking with the script. Yep. They would take different characters in the family, and they the script. So kind of like you with the Transformers, huh?
I mean, sometimes, though, if you watch a movie a million times over, you see things you didn't see the first time. So you're just like, man, why didn't I see that? And sometimes
my wife asked me why I watch the Star Trek movies over and over again. And that's my answer, because I can see it 12 times and there's always something that I miss.
Are they the old ones or the new ones, though?
Both. I love the old ones. I think the old ones.
I like the original TV series. Star Trek's kind of cool. I'm kind of into it. The new stuff I can't get into.
Yeah. So, in fact, today they have a Star Trek series that is pre the original Star Trek. Okay, on Disney Plus, and it comes out on Thursdays. So when I get done with this, guess what I'm going to be watching? And what I watch for is how true are they to the original Star Trek series. Are they really before it, and that becomes fun. And I've got some friends, we talk about those things. And so you like Bumblebee?
Yes.
Yeah, Bumblebee, he was cool, huh?
I mean, there's the weird thing though about Bumblebee within all 5 of the movies. I mean, the storyline never really added up after the 3rd one, so it's kind of just like whatever. So like you had like Bumblebee, and then all of a sudden you got like younger and then like was older. It's really weird. I still haven't quite figured that out. But Bumblebee's pretty cool. He's got a cool character to him.
Yep, it's called remaking movies to make money, not to stay true to the storyline.
I wish they would have stayed true to the storyline, though. I bet it would have been a good one.
Yep. So, all right, another question here for you. What has been your proudest moment?
Oh, all right.
I know for some Christians, pride is something we're not supposed to have, but there are moments in our lives where it's like, yeah, God, that was it, you know.
I think my proudest moment would probably be, getting into the music and doing it for him as well as doing it for others. Like if you would have told me, my youth pastor brings this up all the time because he's the one who boot kicked me into doing this stuff. He's like, if you would have told me like 3 to 4 years ago that I'd be leading, my youth group, or I'd be, playing at a coffee house, or playing guitar in general, I would have looked at you and said, what are you talking about? Like that, like, no way, that's not me. And then, just picked up the guitar one Christmas and sure enough, stuck with it. And, look where it got me. I say it's my proudest moment.
Yeah,
and I hope to stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully Saturday night will be one of those top proudest moments for you.
I 100% bet it will be.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. While we're on that subject, Cooper, how'd you get started in music? in doing music?
Oh, well, that actually kind of leads into my answer for that question. So this works well.
Okay.
My dad loves rock music. Okay,
Okay.
He loves Alice Cooper. Okay, another
All
Christian.
right.
Alice Cooper has done some cool stuff. He's
Yep.
you know, you kind of have to say that because some people have like a negative view of him. But anyway, that's where my name comes from. Okay.
Okay.
So my
Okay.
dad, he loves rock music. I would hear rock music growing up, and I played Guitar Hero as a kid, a video game, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what I was doing. I picked it up backward, you know, and I was just playing it. And eventually I decided I wanted a real guitar. And somehow we were able to afford a cheap Chinese made electric guitar. And that's what I started on. I started playing violin in the school orchestra around the same time. And from there, I kind of just learned new instruments as people threw them at me and played as much as I could. I love this stuff. You know, to me, there's no feeling like being on, you know, stage. And that's not because I'm in front of everybody. I mean, it could be a stage with nobody in it. You know, I love playing music. I love listening to music, making fun of other people's music taste. You know, it's all of it to me. It's great.
That's good. That's good. So your proudest moment is doing music, right? Something with music, I suppose.
It's related to music. So having these experiences from like I started in sixth grade playing music and just loving it, you know, listening to music, playing it, teaching it. Uh, the natural thing, a lot of people would say, well, you should be like a music teacher or a performer or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, I could do that. You know, I'd really like to do this for the rest of my life. But at the same time, unfortunately, I've got good grades at school. All right, and these days, if you have good grades at school, they try to tell you, well, you should be an engineer or an architect or a scientist, right? It makes sense. You make money that way. You're not poor. You don't live on the street, and a lot of people don't want to live on the street. And like it makes sense. You know, you find a stable job and something you can depend on and something that the world needs or whatever, and then you can do what you want to do on the side. I would say my proudest moment, which only happened probably about a year, maybe a little more than a year ago, was deciding to throw that all aside and follow what I love, you know, because to do that is, I think, probably, well, definitely more rewarding than anything else.
Oh man, I wish I was as wise as you when I was your age. I really do. You know, and there were things I was going to be something that was really important to me. I wanted to be a elementary school teacher.
Sure.
But sixth grade, I didn't want to change their diapers. You know, fifth, sixth grade, I figured by that time they're not in diapers anymore. And that's really what I was studying. Along with philosophy at college, when Jesus got a hold of me and turned my world inside out and upside down. And all of a sudden, the most important thing to me at that point became being able to share with people what it meant to be a follower of Christ, because I was kind of the anti-Christian. I went to IU Northwest, and I was kind of the anti-Christian on campus at the time. But even within that, that scenario, you know, the thing that everybody tells you, well, if you're going to, you know, be in ministry, then you want to become a pastor. And so I became a pastor. And I always had this burden for kids, but and you know, I pastored a couple of churches for maybe 10 years and or so, and I could do it, and it seemed to go pretty well. But it was, now that I look back on it, it was kind of like putting on King Kong's mittens, you know, and trying to do something like that. But then all of a sudden, I got called out to Pennsylvania to start working this youth center and start working with these disconnected higher risk kids that I knew nothing about other than my background. But I still, you know, my background was, I kind of rebelled against my background. I had a pretty together family. I didn't understand disconnected families. And most of these kids were coming from that. And I tried everything I could in ministry and learned in ministry to minister to these kids, and it didn't work. And finally, one day, God said, just shut up and spend time with them. And so I started shutting up and spending time with them, and they would ask me questions and then I'd answer. And it turned my whole life around. It turned my whole ministry life around. And working with disconnected, higher risk kids the way I have been for the past 35 some years was like putting on a pair of racing gloves. Yeah. And so the kind of thing that you're talking about, you know, knowing that this is what my heart is set on right now. This is where I want to be. And both of you have a sense about that and pursue that. And, you know, you may keep doing that the rest of your life. Things may happen in your life and things change and your interests change. And that happens all the time these days. Back when I was growing up, if you made a choice, a life choice, you know, when you got out of high school to either go to college or go into the trades or something, you were that whatever you went for the rest of your life. And today it's more fluid, and, you know, people change occupations. I know there was a study years ago that said the average person graduating from high school would go through 3 to 5 different occupations in their lifetime. And some people would see that as bad, but I don't. I think it's figuring out exactly who you are and where you fit and how you fit into God's economy and what God is trying to do in your life. And both of you seem to be very much focused on that. I am glad I forgot to do Jimbo's Radical Shorts, because we're able to take more time with these stories now and things. And I just like this a whole lot more. Okay, here's one that you may not want to answer. Okay. What was your most embarrassing moment?
Oh.
Now, I know even
I have a lot of those.
A senior in high school, you've got some of these.
Yeah.
Or just graduated from high school.
I think it's the best one possible.
Yeah, Go ahead, Caitlin. You got a bunch of them.
I've got a bunch of them, but I can tell you the most recent one that just happened.
Okay.
So I was taking senior pictures on Tuesday at Fair Oaks. And things were going so well. I was going to my next, you know, outfit change. Everything was good. And there's a like small waterfall, like kind of in the back of Fair Oaks. And there was a big rock in the middle, and I could tell that it was like wet and a little mossy, you know. And my photographer was like, "Hey, you know, you think you can get on that big rock right there in the middle of the pond, and we'll take a few pictures?" And you know, I leaped, jumped for it. I was going for it. I was gonna land on it. I wasn't going in the water, and sure enough, my feet just went out from beneath me, and I went in the water. So
he got pictures of all that taking place, right?
I would hope so. I don't know for sure. I won't know till like tomorrow, maybe.
Okay, all right.
Then on the way back, we ended up finding a frog, and I was like, I'm gonna take senior pictures with a toad, you know, whatever. I'm gonna do it. So I'm taking pictures with it, and of course, you know, it peed on me, and you know that was the end of that, and I was done. So that's how my senior pictures went.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Great.
Cooper, can you at least come up to that level?
I really can't, Jim. I was just about to say I'll never be able to do that. I've had embarrassing moments in my life. At the moment, I conveniently cannot recall anything notable. Can you? Can you think of anything? I don't know. It's possible.
You guys known each other most of your life, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
And I could name a whole bunch of embarrassing things for me, because I'm the one in the friend group who's got the embarrassing stories. I am the only one. You know.
Okay.
Cooper wise, I don't know. I mean, we played soccer for the longest time. I don't know if there's anything not embarrassing quite that way.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't have to answer every one of the questions. That's okay. We know you just don't want to put it out there on the internet where it will be alive for the rest of your lives. Yeah. And your great-grandchildren will go back and watch this interview and go, whoa, Papa did that? You know?
I've learned to just enjoy my embarrassing moments, because they just happen so much that I'm just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let them happen.
That's a good attitude. That's a great attitude. Okay, I have one last question for you. It's about Saturday night, okay? You're coming Saturday night to minister to people in music. What would you show you that your time at Koinonia Coffeehouse this coming Saturday night was a success?
You looking at me?
Yeah, good.
There's a few things, okay? There's a few signs, that's what we're looking for here, to figure out whether we succeeded or not, okay? And that's, we play music, okay? Some people do comedy, some people do drama. We play music. If anybody is clapping or singing or tapping their foot, I think we've succeeded. A success, no matter how small. If anybody is praying during our worship songs, we're playing some worship tunes, that's a win. If I get to meet anybody new, that's a win. If I get to get closer to anybody that I already knew, that's a success. Showing up and playing music, you can start to feel like it's either a win or a loss. Either the crowd responds really well or they don't. But it's not always like that. And I mean, sometimes in life, not just with music, it isn't always like that. It can be something small. And I think with growing up in small town DeMont Wheatfield, it just isn't always like that. So I think if I show up, we show up and we put on a good show that's honest and true, and we meet some new people, make some new connections, because that's what this, Koinonia idea is all about. Then I think we've made a great success.
Yeah.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, that is, I've asked this question to a number of people. That's probably the best answer I've gotten so far. It really is, that people are really, something's happening in the people's lives, that they're not just hearing music. They're hearing music. They're hearing good music. You want them to hear good music, but God's used that for something to be happening in their lives and connecting with people. That's.
I'll tell you this, Jim. I mean, when us just youth kids, us doing it. I mean, them just getting into it and clapping with us and singing with us. I mean, that's honestly the best feeling in the world. To be honest with you, I mean, it makes the music more alive, if that makes sense.
It does. Yep.
You're impacting is.
Yep.
I think is the best part.
Yeah, and let me tell you, when you guys have been doing that first set, I would not have gone to Alyssa. I pronounced that right? Alyssa. Yeah. We'll get it. Alyssa, and said, "Can they come back next week? And then can they do this every Saturday night?" If what was happening in that first set wasn't number one good, okay, and respectable as far as music is concerned, but number two, making an impact in people's lives. And I could see that in the eyes of the people and the responses that I was getting from people afterwards. So in that opening set that you guys have been a part of most of the Saturday nights, if not all. I know Cooper, you missed one, but I think you've been there most of them. But the majority of them, you guys have been making an impact in people's lives. And I just can't wait for Saturday, especially when that's your heart. Your heart is to impact people's lives and to build relationships with people. And let me just tell you that makes a 70-year-old bald white fat man's heart grow big. And I knew there was a reason why I felt connected to you two, and why I really felt God said, you guys need to do, the full coffee house, the last two sets of the coffee house. I just knew there was something about you two, and I really didn't get to know you before this interview. This is the first time we've really sat down together, and yet there was something special. And I just felt, you feel that tug in your heart where God says, this needs to happen. And so I'm really looking forward. And I want to thank you guys. I know even when I graduated from high school, if somebody would ask me to be on a live interview, I probably wouldn't have said yes. Well, I probably would have said yes so I could say something stupid, because that's kind of who I was. But back then, but to come on an interview and to be serious with it, and to give the kinds of responses and answers you guys did today. I told you guys last Saturday night we were going through a difficult time trying to get things set up with the sound. And Caitlin, you said to me a couple of times, Jimbo, we got your back. We're here. If we have sound, we have sound. If we don't have sound, we have sound. We're back. We're here to do music with the people. And I don't get that attitude often from people that have been around in music for a long time. And I told you to in the green room that we have there that before you guys were here, in my expectations, and then after that, and because I was feeling kind of frustrated, to say the least, Saturday. And I should know by now, God has a way of making things work out, and everything was fine by the time it was time to start. But because of that, you guys went up to here. And after this interview, I'll tell you what, I want to stay connected with you too. You're going to Indianapolis, you're going up to Appleton, Wisconsin, right? Yep. Cooper, is that what you said, Appleton? Okay. And in fact, I pastored for 6 years on Washington Island up in Wisconsin, up in Door County, and so I'm kind of familiar with Wisconsin. But I want to stay in contact with you guys. Okay, I want to follow your lives. I want to see what God's doing in your lives. It's exciting to meet young people that love God, that are interested in making a difference in other people's lives, that are as able to express themselves as you two are. Again, maybe there's just something in the water in Jasper County. I don't know, but I grew up in Porter County. Maybe that's my problem. I wasn't drinking Jasper County water like you guys do. But anyway, you guys are great. Appreciate you coming on tonight. I'm looking forward to Saturday night. Thank you for being with us tonight. Remember this Saturday night, Koinonia Coffeehouse, June 18th with Caitlin and Cooper. You really want to be there. I am even more impressed after this interview with these two young people than I even were before. Remember, we're on State Highway 49 in Wheatfield, Indiana, just north of the tracks, only 30 minutes from the north side of Valpo, 30 minutes from the south side of Rensselaer. If you're from Wheatfield, DeMott, Hebron, Couts, we're in your backyard. Come on out and be an encouragement to these young people as they take the lead in ministry at the Koinonia Coffeehouse, and be there for no other reason than to support them. But I will guarantee if you come out to support them, God's going to do something in your life, because these are young people that God moves through and will continue to move through as long as they continue to follow him. Some of you have asked how to get in contact with me. You can call me or text me on 219-406-2023. You can email me at jbwarren@indianajimbo.com. That's indianajimbo.com. I was having problems with that email for a while. We got it fixed. That's my main email. So you should be able to get a hold of me through that email. You can also private message me either on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/JBW51, or the Koinonia Coffeehouse Facebook page, or you can write me at Jim Warren at P.O. Box 65, Wheatfield, Indiana. Also, I just want to say that if you're interested in seeing the Koinonia Coffeehouse continue, please consider either a one-time donation or a monthly donation to keep us going. While some things are donated, not everything is donated, and we do have some overhead and some costs involved. I would love not to have a donation jar at the coffee house for the coffee house ministry, and simply keep a donation jar out for the main group that comes in and ministers. The only way that'll happen is if people will make a monthly pledge to the coffee house. You can do that on the Koinonia Coffeehouse website at koinoniacoffeehouse.org. Just scroll on down, donate button, or you can send a check to Dynamic Life Development Inc. That's the nonprofit that we run the coffee house through right now, and that's Dynamic Life Development Inc. All you have to do is put on the check DLD, P.O. Box 65, Wheatfield, Indiana 46392, and put coffee house down in the memo. And finally, listen, my friends, let me just get this off the screen. Excuse me a minute. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I'm glad I forgot to do the Jimbo's radical shorts, because we had more time with this couple, and they're not a couple, these two people that do music together, and we really appreciate having them. And remember, Saturday night doors open at 6:45. Now, here's the way I always close everything I do. I want to encourage you to go out there and make your life a life that honors and glorifies your Father in heaven through the faith that produces obedience. Please settle for nothing less. Why? Because Father settles for nothing less.